Saluti a tutti, and welcome to this episode of Ciao DMV, Italian American Life in the DMV. My name is Joseph Barone, and I will be your host. This podcast channel is dedicated to all things Italian and Italian American in the DMV, aka DC, Maryland, and Virginia. My focus is on the Italian American experience, from family stories to little-known history to businesses to cultural events. Mostly the good, but sometimes the not-so-good. Today, I am pleased to present to you the second part of my interview with Michael Riccardi, the CEO of Domenix. According to their website, Domenix is a team of dedicated and experienced defense industry professionals specializing in Department of Defense, DoD, support by providing world-class information technology, software, and hardware products, system solutions, and cloud services spanning the system development life cycle. If you listen to the first part, you will know that Mike's story is one of hard work, perseverance, and seizing the opportunities when they are presented. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2. So, you've been hired by United Technologies. What happens there? What type of job did you get there? What happens?
So the most sophisticated work that I've ever done, satellite communication systems that actually were spy satellites. So they were called programmable single processors. Okay. So I was really working with some really high-end stuff. But the workload, like in these companies in most cases, shifts. So they moved me from one project to another. So I went to the multiple launch rocket system. I went to the DASD, which was the Air Force Surface Detection Equipment for looking for near-term collision with Doppler radars. And I ended up working with a guy on the multiple launch vehicle who was a little bit of a nut of a Marine that they had hired. And the guy was a real nut. And he decided that I was going to be his friend, whether I wanted to be his friend or not. At the same time, I'm going for my graduate degree. And so it was okay. I enjoyed the work. I was being paid fairly. It was about a 40-minute drive from my house, from Glen Cove going out to Huntington. But like I said, I didn't like the fact that the environment was changing again. The project I was on with Lou was no longer the project I was on, programmable single product. Now they started to move me and ship me around. So I realized, I probably, all right, fine, this is good, I could deal with it. But I got to buy a house. I'm going to get married. So we go out to Smithtown, we try to buy a house. Prices were more reasonable there than Glen Cove. And then out of the blue, my brother calls me up and says to me, hey, I'm down here, in Virginia. I'm moving down. So he moves down in 1985, 1986 around. And I get a call simultaneously, serendipitously, from a company called Computer Horizons. And they say to me, hey, we're going to give you a $17,000 raise. I think at the time I was making like $30,000. And you're going to go work in Great Neck, at Sperry on submarines. I'm like, oh, wow, this is 17 now, So I basically said, sure, I'll look at the job. And then they said to me, well, wait a minute, we got a little bit of a problem. The union is not going to allow us to put you to work. You're going to have to go down to Reston, Virginia. I'm like, excuse me? Where the hell is Reston, Virginia? So I called my brother, who had just moved down to Burke, and I said, Joe, where's Reston, Virginia? He goes, oh, that's 20 minutes from where I live in Chantilly. And it's 20 minends from Burke, and it's 20 minutes from everything. Mm-hmm. You can stay with me. So I called the lady back up. Nancy, I'm trying to remember her last name. She ended up working for Khaki. Anyway, so I ended up coming down, visiting the place, visiting the job. They had built a brand new facility in Reston called...
And this was open area at the time.
Oh, very much open area.
I remember coming down here at that time in this area going out to Burke and then eventually all the way out to Winchester. This was open area.
2 lanes road.
Yeah, this was nothing.
Trees everywhere.
Nothing here.
No, and the 267, the Dulles Access Road, was always empty. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally no traffic on the damn thing at all.
Very different time.
Exactly. So anyway, I take the job, come down and start working at Sperry. And lo and behold, I find out that I'm a contractor. I'm not really an employee of this computerizing company. They happened to be a contracting firm, farming me out to Sperry. And Sperry at the time had just changed to Unisys because they bought Burroughs. So again, lots of changes going on. And I got kind of like, wait a minute, I'm a contractor. What does that mean? It's not a steady job? Oh, no, when your contract is up, your gig is up and we have to put you somewhere else if we have it. And I'm like, well, is it going to be around? He goes, no, it could be in Georgia. It could be, we can send you wherever.
That was an eye-opener, wasn't that?
Eye-opener. And then I come to find out I got friendly with one of the guy who was the program manager. He tells me what they were billing me at versus what I was getting paid. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Billing versus what I'm getting paid. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to become my own contractor. And I worked out a deal with Compliance to be my own contractor. And so I took on and became a 1099 with them. And so that's what started my career in contracting.
Okay.
And so I started to work with other companies in the area like Hughes Network System and others where I farmed out my time.
And eventually, is this the point where you start your own company?
I kind of had to, right? So I started my first company called MARCSD, which stood for Michael Anthony Riccardi, Computer System Designer. and because at the time you couldn't work for one company, if you will, otherwise they would the rules. I started taking on jobs where I would actually build distributed systems, multi-share systems, multi-user systems for lawyers and area firms that did construction work. And so I started to kind of farm out different type of work where I kind of networked them and set their systems up and kind of had multiple jobs, if you will, including my contractual work that I did for 30 hours to 40 hours a week, depending on the customer.
Right. Now, that was a big time for you with the 80s, lots of work. In fact, I remember the companies down here were called Beltway Bandits at the time.
They still are.
But I don't hear that term used as much. But having said that...
We call them butts and seats now.
Butts and seats. What were some lessons that you learned from that, other than billable hours versus the hours money that you got? Were there any other lessons at that time you were starting to learn?
Yeah, so the part of me, remember we talked about that efficiency stuff? I ran into that time and time again because when you work contracts at either cost plus or time and material, the companies who run those contracts are trying to increase cost because to their advantage. They make more money because in their case, they're driving revenue up, okay? So I learned a few things about that efficiency thing that we talked about. That's why it was so relevant when you asked. And so that made me realize that as an Italian, and this is where I think it's a cultural thing. My dad took pride in every cabinet he made. My mom took pride in every shirt she made. My mom took pride in every piece of biscotti she made. So that sort of cultural, lesson, if you will, drives me to want to do the best that I can at all times. And money is not necessarily always the object. You want to get paid. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's a fool. But you want to be proud of what you leave somebody with. You want to solve a problem, and you want them to be happy with what you provided them. So I learned that that's not what most companies did down here at the time through this government work. The efficiencies, the fact that quality was never the necessary thing. They would hire people based upon criteria versus actual skill sets. So I decided I could do better myself. And that's why I decided to go into my own business. And I incorporated it in 1992.
And you were doing so well that eventually someone came to you and said, I want to buy you out.
Yeah, so the company built up from 92 to about 20. So prior to 911, we were doing fantastic. I had a buyer that came in. We had the deal almost wrapped up. 911 happens, the deal falls apart. Okay? So we even lose about half of our contracting work because we, at the time, did a lot of R&D work. And when 911 happens, they shifted to what they call production work. Okay, and as a small business, unlike most of the Beltway Bandits here, they come in two forms. They come in the Beltway Bandits, which are the large firms that basically hire through a revolving door of people from the inside that come back out on their board and then they kind of go back. And then the 8A program. The 8A program is what they call a minority status program, where if you were Black, Hispanic, Indian, Asian, everything but European, effectively, you had sole source contracts. So we had a struggle to get contracts. So we went into the R&D realm only because those are more higher skilled capabilities you can't just throw to these 8A firms. So we stayed above that sort of threshold. But when 911 happens, that went all out the door. So I had to retrench and reconvene what we were going to become now that this thing happened. So we got into more product-based work. And around 2006, a company came around called, uh, it eventually became known as Lattice, but it was called Science Dynamics. It was a stock-based company. I had set up an ESOP for my employees at the time, thinking that if they had equity, they would work harder. Turns out they really didn't care, because for them, it's like, okay, I don't see it. It's not my check.
Right.
So doing the sale, I thought had two components to it. I was going to be a public company. I was going to have a COO role, and my employees now were going to get their ESOP stocks converted to real stock that they could look on the market and see value. So that's why I did it back in 2006, thinking that I would grow the business. But unfortunately, the people I sold to had different views about what the company was to become. They wanted to do what I call pump and dump. At the time, I learned what that was. That's where you build up a company to make it look fat and juicy, and then you kind of dump the stock, and then everybody kind of walks away and leaves everybody else hanging. So that kind of got me a little ticked. Started having some issues with the management at the time, the leadership, the CEO, and the CFO, and I decided, you know what? I'll just walk away from this, get my whatever earn out that I need, and then just kind of take a little rest.
And so in a sense, another lesson learned.
Yeah, lesson learned.
So you take your rest, but knowing you can't sit around.
I was getting calls from all my employees, pissed off, disgruntled, asking me to start up again. And so I had happened to have a company that I was using at the time for RTI, which was called Riccardi Technologies Incorporated, called Domenix, which I had named after my father. And subsequently, my son was born with the same name. And that company, all it did was it provided the 1099 employees, because in government contracting, I had W-2s. So the only way I can get contracted was to outsource it. And so I outsourced it to a firm that I created where my wife kind of ran. And so we actually did it that way, where we could still get the 1099, but we would have it separate, and so we could do those cost plus contracts, and they could see the breakdown. So we could stay within the legal confines of what they call a DCAA audit. So that's how that came about. But in 2007, based upon all my disgruntled employees, I said to my wife, hey, let's take this, let's see if we can kind of build it up and go back and kind of see if we can do things better. And that's what we did, and that's how Domenix was born.
Okay. And so what does Domenix focus on these days? What is your main, without giving away any secrets, what do you guys focus on today?
So when we started the company, effectively in 2001, it just was a shell company for the most part.
Okay.
Around 2007, 2008, when I came on board, we shifted, and we shifted in two ways. One is we tried to take all the lessons learned from the RTI company and apply some of the things that I had in my previous MAR CSD for products, sort of, and I tried to do the combination. And so that's what we started out doing. And so we were growing at a very fast clip, probably about 120% a year.
Wow.
So by 2009, we're doing about $3.9 million. But the law came around that says you can't do both. Obama came out with this rule that you can't do both. So I split the company in 2010 into Domenix Technologies and Domenix. Domenix Technology did all the body shopping, if you will. We call them butts and seats. They provided contractual things that most of the Beltway bandits do, where they provide bodies to projects. And Domenix focused on products. And that's how we went down. And around 2016, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to really start to blow up, Domenix, and then let the people who I had hired for DXT take that and run with it. Because Marie was the owner of that, and I was the owner of Domenix. So that's what we started in 2015. But by 2018, right, what happened was one of the customers we had basically wanted to buy DXT. So we sold them DXT. And in 2019, I called my previous partner from RTI that I sold in 2006, who had retired and had gone to the government, if he wanted to come back and join me and kind of do this on the product side only. And so that's what we did. Around 2019, we started to push product development. So what we do is specialized software development for what we call sensors that deal with combating weapons of mass destruction.
Okay.
It's a very niche area. It takes a lot of advantage of the lessons learned we had over the previous RTI company. We had a similar product called SenseView back then. We created a new product called the Unified Protocol Architecture, which is basically a mechanism for us to sort of build middleware for sensors and control systems to be married, if you will. So therefore, as these sensors get produced and modified and new ones come on board, we can provide the middleware that makes them talk the language that's required by these control systems. So that's one of our business areas. The other business area is we actually build what they call DevSecOps environment. These DevSecOps environments are just a way to build software and provide configuration control, but also get through the standards of the CMMC2, which is the government requirement that you have the ability to control the data. So you have a cyber component to it. And then with that, we've also ventured into modeling and simulation, where we build various models that have effects associated with what these sensors provide as data, so we can then inform, in this case, a commander, of the viable threats, workarounds to maneuver around it, whether they need to suit up and mask. So it's really meant to deal with exposures to bad things,
Right.
and preventing that.
Biological, nuclear, and chemical warfare, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many employees do you have generally?
Yeah. So we range between 20 and 25 employees typically. We have probably 6 employees that we kind of have on call, and 20 that we have permanent.
Okay. Great. And what's the future look like for RTI?
Yeah, so no, it's not our
That's
guy
right.
anymore. Yeah, it's Domenix.
Domenix, I'm sorry.
But we did something clever because I wanted to use a lot of the old stuff. So we went with the nomenclature of Domenix, relevant technology, and so we were able to sort of kind of grab the two. But the future for us really revolves around being more of a products company, because what we're trying to do now is not. First of all, we moved away from the butts and seats. Okay, we sort of sell ourselves as digital plumbers.
Okay.
Okay, we solve communication, transport layer related issue. We solve data maturation. We solve applying AI capabilities to make the efficiency of the information understandable. So our business is make information understandable and make it transportable. And so therefore the data layer is what we work in. Everything related to data and how that data could be used and that actually applied.
Okay. Okay. I want to shift gears. So, shift gears a little bit. I want to continue on just for a moment with the concept of kind of values. You talked earlier about doing the best that you can, whether you are cleaning the toilets, whether you're baking a piece of bread, your mom doing the biscotti, the sweater, all of those things, and also doing it as efficiently as possible. But what are any other values that from those early days throughout your working career that say, this is another 1 or 2 values, loyalty to employees, whatever those values are, what are some of them?
So I have a charitable component to me, but my charitable component is a little different than most people. What do I mean by that? I don't believe in giving a handout. I believe in giving a hand up. So my value premise is around hand up. Let me build a capability and environment where I can have people fulfill their intellectual capacity and capabilities, but at the same time provide goods and services to the greater community. That's what we're all about right now. In a civilized economy, it's about being able to provide value to those who don't see it, provide value to those who see it, and at the same time create an environment where people feel good about what they're doing. And so countering weapons of mass destruction is a good thing to do. It's and I'm not going to use the virtual signaling and all the other stuff that goes on. It's, you know, the humanitarian stuff. It's innate. I mean, everybody's humanist, okay? I'm a humanist. But I think the fundamental principle really comes down to this. I'm a libertarian at heart. And what does that mean? That means when I see that and read that Constitution, which I had to fast track to get my citizenship, I found meaning in that document. I found meaning in the fact that culturally, we as as a society, value each other's independence and value each other's loyalty, but at the same time, we value each other's responsibilities. I.e., I take responsibility for what I do. I find myself being culpable for what I do, and I'm the first one to, fess up if I did something wrong, because I always want to do better. And so, to me, the enemy of the good has always been told is the better. I strive for that. I always want to be my worst enemy when it comes to trying to do better. So that to me is sort of the core values: independence, self responsibility for what you're, what you take on. That's why I clean that pot as best as I could. Somebody said to me, clean the pot. I'm not going to give a pot with shit left off.
Right.
Like you get what I'm saying.
No, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that I think that's at the core, but that comes from the fact that I take responsibility for what I give, and so the people that I bring around me, I want them to feel comfortable, but also I want them to feel productive, and I want them to feel responsible.
And that value, you hear and see a lot of it in small business owners, small and mid-sized. You don't see it in the large corporations because like it's a company, they'll figure it out, whatever. You see this in a lot of small entrepreneurs, and especially given your life, what's happened in your life from an early age all the way through, that giving back and helping people raise themselves up, just as those teachers did
Yes.
for you
Yes.
in elementary school and in high school, who saw something and you said, hey, this guy is not a slacker, this guy is not going to be a nobody, he's got something there, it's time to help him raise him up.
Because it's so pay forward has always been a thing. I believe in pay forward. If somebody does something right by me, I feel obligated to do something right either by them or someone else, because I think that's a gift, right? When somebody goes out of their way to help you, that's a gift. So they went out of their way to help me. So how do I help others? Like I said, I don't want to give people a handout, because all a handout does is comforts them. It doesn't show them. It's like they say, give somebody a fishing pole and show them how to fish, okay, versus just giving them the fish. And I think that adage is really what is the heart of my values.
That's excellent. That's excellent. You don't hear that a lot. Well, you hear it, but maybe not as much as we hope. I myself was a scout leader. I became a scout leader because there were guys who, mostly World War II vets, who, when I was a scout, gave up all their time and energy, and I learned a hell of a lot, and I did really well in scouts, and it was my time to give back and, in a sense, help those kids, those who wanted to earn Eagle Scout, let them become an Eagle Scout, let them do whatever they want, help them learn new things, etc.
But they want, see, so here's the caveat for me, and I think maybe for you as well. They have to want to. It's not our jobs to force them.
Right, absolutely.
It's our job to give them an avenue to explore.
Right. Yeah, they're not 2-year-old kids, and that's how I see when when you want to become an Eagle Scout, it's something you have to do. My job as a leader at the time was to help them. I will do everything I can to help you. I will provide you advice, show you the right way, tell you who to talk to, and even how to talk to them. But you have to do this. I can't do this for you. I can't do your project. I can't write it up. But I can help you make sure it's all done the proper way. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's it in a nutshell, I think.
Now I want to shoot to one last thing. I want to talk about you personally. Marie. Is Marie Italian?
No.
Ah.
Marie goes by a maiden name of Watson.
Ah.
Her father is Welsh and English, and her mother, who passed away when she was 2, and then she had a stepmother. She was Austrian, and I think Polish, maybe. I don't know.
Okay. And kids?
Yeah, both good kids. Michelle, 31, going on 32. She has a nice new child named Mason.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He's 1 year and 1 month. Gorgeous little kid. Reminds me of me when I was a little kid. I show a picture. I'm like, that's me, which is a good thing to me.
And is it no or is it grandfather?
So right now it's nothing. I get the spitballs. No, I get nothing. So my wife Marie isn't. I mean, she loves him like we all love him, and so my daughter's doing very well. She married a nice gentleman by the name of Alex. My son is 28. He works for me, and Michelle just joined the company January 5th. Okay. She became the COO. Okay. And she had been a career girl at Answer Miter, running their AI department for the FAA FFRDC. And so she just joined us January 5th because I convinced her that now's a good time because I don't want to sell the business. And I'm getting to the point that I don't want to keep going, at the rate that I've been going. I just turned 65 just recently. And so I said, you know what? This is a good time for you guys. Come on board. I'll give you guys 3.5 years of runway. That's what I have as a contract base. And let's see what you guys can do with it. And I'm going to slowly kind of hand over the reins to you guys. I know you're not going to like it, but I think it has to happen.
Yeah.
So
So, and one of the last things I want to ask you as we kind of wind this down is thinking back to your childhood, whether it be in Italy or here in Brooklyn and then in Glen Cove. What are some family traditions that you keep? Do you do the seven fishes on Christmas Eve? Do you do anything around Easter? Any traditions that you keep and that your kids are still keeping?
So this is where I think I fell down. I would have loved to have done that, but that requires, like for instance, my cousins and everyone else, they keep all those traditions because they married into Italian families with the extended families, and we kind of ventured into this land of entrepreneurship and self-reliance, and so even though my two brothers are now down here with me, uh, we do get together for Christmas, we do get together for Thanksgiving, but we don't follow traditions because I think for the most part my mom didn't have the luxury to do that because when my dad died, she was left with us herself, not, in a new town, and the best she could do was kind of struggle to make it. So we lost a lot of that sort of. We became working stiffs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it gets harder as you move away from your parents or grandparents, and each generation you move more and more away from it, and I see it. I don't keep everything that my mom, although my mom was born here but raised in Sicily and came back after the war. My dad, who was born here, but his parents were Sicilian. They had certain traditions. I don't keep some of them. I keep a couple, but not a lot. I'm trying to reinvigorate some of them. My kids don't. They've got their own new traditions. They haven't married Italians or Sicilians. They've married others, and therefore those traditions are slowly, unfortunately, disappearing.
I think that's why we're in the Lido Club.
Yes, that's right.
I think we're in the Lido Club for a couple of reasons. One is to reconnect to that to a certain degree. I can tell you, I have friends, like for instance, Andrew, who's a Lido member as well. We happen to know each other from Glen Cove. His father used to cut my hair, in fact, Armando. He used to run a place called Three Cousins up in Glen Cove. He's down here in Leesburg. He runs our RAC, which is a construction company. We get together with him. In fact, we just came back. We made 240 pounds of supersat.
Wow.
So we just kind of...
And you didn't bring me any?
Well, we'll have them for you. We'll have them for you. They're curing right now. We hope they don't freeze because the weather's worse than we expected. But yeah, so we made about 200 of them.
Wow.
Last year we made 150 of them. The year before that we made 100 of them. My wife is now jarring stuff for the first time, like my mother taught her. So she's jarring sauces and she's barring and pickling. So we bring some of it back. Our kids have not picked up on it, but I know they miss it.
Yeah. We started doing some other things like I did a couple of years ago, struffoli.
Oh, my favorite.
And
Sicilian style?
Yeah. So I learned from my mother, but I had to look up the recipes because Mom has passed away. She didn't write this stuff down. Yeah. And we made it one year. We didn't make it last year. We made it 2 years ago. My kids were like, "Oh, this is great, Dad! You gotta." And so now that I'm officially retired,
right,
I've decided we're going to try to do that again at Christmas. We don't do the seven fishes thing. That was just my mom didn't like it. My dad wasn't a big fish eater. They do some, but they didn't do all the seven. So I'm going to ask you one last question. I'm going to wind up with one last question for you. Is it gravy or is it sauce?
Sauce.
Oh, okay. Mike, thank you so much for being on my podcast, Ciao DMV. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day so much.
I appreciate you coming by. I'm sorry for leaving you hanging, but it was a great interview. Thank you.
It is my hope that you have enjoyed listening to Mike's journey of hard work, perseverance, and seizing the opportunities when presented. If you're interested in being on this podcast, please feel free to contact me at ciaodmv@gmail.com. That's ciaodmv@gmail.com. And please remember, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, and or share with a friend. This is Joseph Barone, your host, signing out. Ciao for now.